welcome to another edition of Pulp Picks. My name is Patrick.
I'm Fritz.
And we're here to give you this week's reading recommendations on New Comic Book Day. So every Wednesday, there's new issues of our favorite books and sometimes brand new books. This week, we've got a new book, but it's not like, it's different, I guess is the way to say it. It's it is part of a series, but we'll get to that. But we've got a returning, longtime favorite of many, many comic fans. For a lot of people, it's the book that started their favorite whole part of comic book dumb. What'd you go with this week, Fritz?
Yeah, so my pick this week is Fantastic Four issue 33, or I guess technically Fantastic Zero, because yeah, so this whole arc coming off of the events of One World Under Doom, Ben gets his Doom's just like, hey, Reed can never fix you. I'm gonna get so you're human again. And so they have to deal with that, but they also come to realize oh, one of us having our powers taken away like that has actually caused this weird chain effect where we're all starting to lose our powers. So they're trying to figure out how to fix it. And they've been trying different things. They've tried going to different universes to try and get cosmic rays. They've tried using going back in time to their own origin events, which caused all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
And the new solution that Valerie has landed on for them is what if we go back to the Big Bang?
Oh my.
Yeah, and
that's going to be a theme today, I'm just saying.
Yes, very true. But so the plan is we're going to go back for a couple nanoseconds. We're going to have Herbie pilot the ship because he's a robot. He'll be able to do it all faster than we can. We'll be in and out, get our powers back, all good to go. And obviously there's some trepidation because if you don't know anything about the start of the universe, it was not exactly hospitable, to say the least.
Not unless you're Galactus.
Yeah, no. So they're this but it's also then they're faced with the issue of it's either go back and maybe get powers or stay here, lose our powers, and not even be able to do anything to really save the world anymore. So it's it's a shot worth taking. And so you get these nice little moments where, because obviously Ben's I don't want you guys to maybe die just so I get my powers back. But they're just dude, we're family, it's okay.
Right. Yep.
And you get some great bits with that. You get because I think this is really the first time in this whole run that Herbie's really shown up and done stuff.
Much of anything, yeah.
Yeah, and so him getting he gets a bunch of spotlight moments, especially once they actually do travel back and predictably things don't exactly go to plan. There's they actually touch on one of my favorite little actual science things of just when the universe was created, technically there should have been an equal amount of matter and antimatter, and that should just cause another big explosion. But obviously there wasn't because we're still here, and they kind of touch on that why that might have been why that might have happened and everything. And it's just there's this very just nice moment at the end between Reed and Valerie that I absolutely love. And it's fitting because for context, for if you haven't been following along or haven't seen the solicits or anything, so this is the final issue of this current run of the Fantastic Four.
Right.
The good news is that they're relaunching in July. New number one. I know, Marvel does it all the time. It's just a thing now. But I'm super excited because the good news is Ryan North, who's been writing this whole run, people have been loving it. He's doing the current One World Under Doom series. He's still staying on as writer.
Yeah.
So it's one of those kind of relaunches where it's basically just continuing what we were doing. They've got Humberto Ramos coming on to do art, who, if you familiar with Spider-Man from the last 10, 15 years, you've definitely seen his work.
Correct, yep.
But yeah, so I'm super excited for that. I love how this series just kind of not necessarily wraps up, but just kind of ends on this is just a nice little conclusion for this phase of their life. I hope that they keep a lot of stuff they have been doing, them living kind of out in the countryside. That's been a nice little touch. I love they've shown off in the preview art that Johnny's keeping his mustache, which is if you told me that one of my favorite things about this run is just Johnny having like a dumb mustache, like a dumb handlebar mustache, I'd be like, no, that's silly. But it's like, no, it fits him perfectly because he's just this kind of like goof.
Well, and if you're gonna bring Ramos on, you kind of gotta let him be kind of silly with it. Yeah. I'm really hoping. So two things. One, I'm hoping that this kind of hits that. The new creative team hits that sweet spot of that kind of Wade Ringo kind of vibe.
I can see that.
Where it's really good classic Fantastic Four storytelling with kind of, I don't know, not over the top, but more fun, carefree kind of art as opposed to, some of the times when they go with really classic comic book style. Not that either is bad, it'll just be kind of refreshing. And two, when they were doing the big announcement for there's a new creator coming to Fantastic Four post-slot, and they were doing the whole Compass thing as like a teaser or whatever, and then you find out that it's Ryan North, and you're like, well, who the hell is Ryan North? Like, why do we care about this?
And like,
I was really worried, and it turns out he's been great.
Yeah, because he definitely done stuff for Marvel before. He done I believe Moon Girl he worked on.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, Moon Girl, and then like some other stuff. He's done some other indie stuff, but like nothing like huge, like stuff that like people definitely read, but like nothing that's like really kind of like grabbed.
Yeah, not enough that you tease that he's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then he gets on the book, and it's easily one of my favorite runs. It's definitely my favorite run since Hickman did it all those years ago now. I don't want to think about how old it makes me feel now.
Hickman Eaglesham, is that? No, Hickman.
No, Eaglesham was artist for a good chunk of the early stuff. But because I think I was still in high school when that was going on. If I didn't feel creaky enough this morning. Yeah,
well, talking about taking a dive into the deep, dark histories.
Yes.
From long, long ago, I went with the new history of the DC Universe, issue number 1, because you can't cram the entire DC Universe history into one book, even if you're rewriting it. And so, who better to do that than Mark Waid, right? So... Wade has been one of the high-profile writers at DC on and off since the 80s. Yeah. And, famously kind of put Wally West on the map as a lot of people's favorite Flash. So what do you do when you have numerous different realities that have been told through books? Basically, it comes down to DC as a publisher didn't care about continuity for a very long time. Well, some of the writers did, and some of them didn't, or maybe some of the editors.
Well, I'd say it's more like they cared, but a lot of times it'd be like different writers and editors like cared about their specific
Sure, yeah.
Because that's the thing when you've had like at least like 3 or 4 majorish reboots. With like some of them like Foley and stuff from the other reboots and everything, like it's like, and because like some of them can like flow pretty well together, and other parts are just like directly contradict each other. So what do you do?
Well, and the idea of the multiverse goes back to early Justice League of America days in the very early '60s, with the whole Earth One concept and all of that stuff. So it's messy, and then on top of it, you throw in the fact that they acquired other publishing IPs. So, a lot of their characters came from publishers that went under or sold the rights to their stuff to DC. You've got Shazam, which was Captain Marvel, Plastic Man, Blue Beetle. A lot of these characters came from other places. So how do you get that all to go together? Well, you put Mark Waid on a book, and you have Todd Nauck. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Todd Nauck and Jerry Ordway.
Yeah, Jerry Ordway. Helping you kind of tell the story. And Chris Samnee on the cover, perfect pick for me. I really wish he'd done the entire book because he's just my absolute favorite. But, it's fun. It's interesting. Here's the rub, right? There are a lot of comic books that were written in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s that did not age well. So how do you get those characters to be part of this history without ignoring the fact that they existed in these stories and kind of, I don't know, smooth off some of the rough edges. I think they did a relatively good job, but at some point in time, you just have to kind of admit, like, some of this stuff probably wasn't great, like there's a lot of cultural appropriation and stuff like that that has happened in all forms of storytelling and media, from days gone by. But we pretty much in this first one do prehistory, the creation of the DC universe as it is, or the worlds in which and realities in which the DC stories take place. And then you get into prehistory. They touch on a lot of the gods. They don't really, the pantheon gods from the different regions.
They don't focus a whole lot on it, but you get obviously you get the Greek god exists. You get Ramakrishna over doing Nana Parbat in the Himalayas for Dead Man and all that. But they
don't really say how they come to be gods and how they come into existence.
Which I think is fine, because one of the things I really liked about this issue is it never dwells too, it's very much kind of walking you through at a brisk pace, so you're able to get to see everything, be immersed in everything, but it's also you're not getting too bogged down and stuff. I also just really enjoy because we were saying there's all these different rewrites and retcons and continuity swaps, but they do a really good job here of folding stuff in, so you get newer stuff Perpetua and how the universe came to be.
Yes. A lot of the Jack Kirby created lore.
There's stuff like that, the third world into the fourth world, Urgrond becoming New Genesis and that. But then you also get a lot of real throwback not superhero characters. I can't think of the last time characters Auroch, Son of Thunder, or Captain Fear showed up in anything. So it's just there's very much attention being given to all these little kind of nooks and crannies of the DC universe that you just don't ever really think about anymore.
And it's really interesting to see kind of who they picked. They picked a lot of really kind of obscure ones too.
Which, I mean, on the one hand, you're not super surprised if you're familiar with Mark Waid. Dude loves his kind of off the beaten path characters, but at the same time, when you do a book like this, it's just obviously stuff has to get cut, whether it be for just page space or this, we can't really fold this in anymore. But the fact that they're able to fit in as much as they do, because there's a lot. Every page in here is just filled with
it's cram. And so the thing that I didn't have time for this morning before our video was to go through each page and just really look for all the different characters that show up on all the pages. But they do a really good job of labeling most of them. The JSA kind of gets a passing mention, which that makes sense because you can easily become familiar with the JSA, right? It's a lot of those other characters that...
And there's so many other characters of that era that they're hey, no one ever talks about this or that person, so we should maybe give them, because if you are familiar with the 40 stuff, Flash, Green Lantern,
right, but do you know the Boy Commandos?
Or do you know it was the group that Dan Dynamite joins, and it's just a bunch of who are these guys again? There's Nate Neptune or something like that.
And again, I think that some of those were acquisition.
I think which would explain a lot, because there's just a lot of a bunch of random 40s people that show up and just I know most of you, I think.
So that kind of begs the question. Are they publishing them so that they don't lose the intellectual property rights to them? I did kind of have that thought during it, but that...
Six of one, half a dozen of the other.
The non-jaded part of me says, well, hopefully that means, because who's got a bigger stable than DC? Nobody, right? So hopefully that means that it's not just going to be the Trinity in every book all the time, forever, in perpetuity. We've talked about that before, and... how it's Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, that's DC, all that they focus on, and every side book is revolving around those, and that's fine to an extent, but man, you've got so much to work with. Let's give some creative teams some more free reign to pull out some of these more obscure characters and do something interesting.
And on a note of like pulling stuff out, one of my favorite things, so like you've got like the main chunk of the issue is like kind of like going through like the history. It's being narrated by Barry Allen because obviously like a nice little meta touch, but him being like a big comic nerd.
Yep.
So you get all that, and then but at the back of the issue, it then becomes an actual like, oh, here's like stuff we couldn't fit in, like just running through like kind of the overall chronological events, but then also like spotlighting like what series and like what issue stuff we're referencing. So like it's just also the nice little way of just like, hey, if you're like curious about this, here's like this issue you can try and track down. Like it's like honestly it'd be almost fun to like grab this and like go through our backlog
it would be
and see like what we do have.
And you know, a lot of key issues, especially going back to like the golden age, the DC stuff, they've been doing facsimiles. And their facsimiles are great because they try to reproduce them in a way that makes them at least kind of feel like the comics at that time would have with the type of paper that they use and everything. So we've talked about that before here. But where this ends is the beginning of, you know, kind of the modern superhero age, I guess you could say. So, you know, I mean, when Superman was the first superhero and the first comic book, you know, character as we think of them today, it's tough for DC to have him be relevant in a timeline that makes sense. So what do? You just, you know, and they did this quite a while ago. You remove him from all of that early stuff. Oh, that was Earth 1 Superman. He wasn't around for that. Oh, that was Silver Age Superman. He wasn't around for any of this. He's younger and cooler and more hip and makes sense that he's, you know, Lois Lane is not 90 years old or something, right? So, so anyway, but that gives you an exciting place to jump on issue number 2. So I'm very excited about it. All right. Well, we could talk about DC Universe history.
Yes.
Oh, did you have one more?
Oh, I was just, my transition was going to be, so we've had an ending and we've had a beginning. In between here?
Yeah, maybe. Real quick, I'm just going to note that if you're hearing a weird trickling sound, it's raining. So our downspout is making noise. And, you know, also, you know, we're talking about going back into history, but the beginnings of 2 superhero universes. Fantastic Four was the beginning of the Marvel superhero universe, and DC, obviously, it was Superman, but they're you know, retconning a lot of it and just consolidating and making sense of. So very cool.
Just a quick side note, I do like there's a kind of random aside in here about like who is now technically like the like first costume superhero, and it's like not anyone you'll ever guess.
No,
and it's a fun like, oh, that's kind of neat.
I straight up full stop. What?
Also Prince Rahman shows up.
Yes. So. I was going to say that because you mentioned him, 6 months ago?
Yeah.
Or when was that?
At the start of Metamorpho,
Yes, that's right. Oh, yeah.
I love to point out when some of my like random favorite obscure characters show up. So, but speaking of characters who are some of my favorites who are kind of on the newer side.
Well, and history.
We have like 5 different segues into this book. Void Rivals 20. Anyway, so if you can't tell from this issue, there's going to be a fight.
Yes.
So Derek and Solia, obviously, as the title suggests, there's been some contention between them because their 2 societies are warring. But now things are different. Like things have gotten weird.
The more questions we have answered, the more questions it raises, right? So, Zerda, what are you up to? You know, what's happening here?
So like as we've discovered, like the Great Ring on which their 2 peoples live on was constructed and houses Zerda Tryon, one of the like founders of like modern Cybertronian society.
Yeah, so like the partner to Alpha Tryon.
Yeah.
In the Transformers resistance to oppression. Yeah.
Yes. And so she's contacted Solia and be like, hey, you gotta like get them to like kind of like get me up and running again, so that way like the black hole that's containing Goliath is like super weapon gets like turned off, so then I can basically like wipe him out and stop him from being a threat like forever. Problem is, Derek's side, as far as they're aware, like, well, if you do that and the Great Ring goes away, what happens to us?
Right.
Yeah. So there's now this contention of just like, well, like, yeah, what does happen? Does Zerda have a plan? Does she know that, like, this something bad can happen to us? Like, what? So, yeah, there's this, like, really good, like, yeah, what happens to everyone involved here now? Like,
Right, yeah. She kind of, implies that it's going to be a good outcome, but does not directly say that it's going to be a good outcome for the people who live on the ring.
Yeah.
So, like, can we trust her? And then we also have all of this other side story stuff that's happening. We've got Springer and Hot Rod trying to escape the gravity of the black hole that's there.
Yeah, they want to get Energon back.
Yeah, they want to get Energon back to Cybertron. And you've got Skuxoids plenty.
Yes, plural, many.
Yeah, many.
And there's some interesting little stuff there because they're like, because the Skuxoids that we have been following, they're getting like a medical exam, and one of them's getting examined, just like, what's with this injury? Like, you shouldn't have that. And then, like, there seems to be, like, some concern about that. We don't really know, like, what exactly is going on there, but just like, okay, yeah, what is going on there? Like, it's, like you were saying, like, every answer creates more questions. And it's, we talk about this all the time in this book, but it's, the fact that they relaunched, like, this whole, like, Hasbro shared universe with an entirely original product, and the fact that it's consistently been, like, one of the best books that they're putting out, it's just, like, wild to me.
Yeah, and I know, like, this has been, of the Energon universe, this one's got the fewest subscriptions in our store now, and I get it. Like, it's the new original stuff, and a lot of people are reading G.I. Joe or Transformers just for the nostalgia factor. But when this all comes together, if you haven't read this, not that it's not going to make sense, but you'll really have missed out on a lot of really good storytelling. And I know that I say this a lot whenever we do a Kirkman book, but the efficiency with which he is able to tell a complicated story without a ton of dialogue is just really refreshing.
Which is funny because I love in this issue how so much of it is like Solia fighting a bunch of guards and Derek just constantly going like, oh my god, can we please talk? We don't, why are we fighting? Like,
he does a lot of characters really that way in his writing.
And like, I do love that this conflict does feel very natural in terms of just like, oh, like with this certain information, you would easily believe like this is the best course of action, but also you can see like why the other side is like opposed to it. Like you absolutely understand like why everyone is in conflict with each other. It's not because so many times you'll read a story and like why people are like set against each other can feel like flimsy or just like it's like okay, sure, whatever. But here's just like no man, like it's like because one of them has basically had an experience with God for all intents and purposes.
Yes. Well, two of them now.
Yeah, two of them now, one of which might be a bit more of a zealot about it.
Which also, that just makes me question it even more.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good.
Yeah, but then the other side is just like, well, we just don't want people to die.
Right,
and
like this all people.
Yeah, and this sounds like this might just be everyone dying.
Yeah,
like how do you reconcile those two things? And then again, like on top of that, all this other stuff, like the Quintessons are coming. Skuxoids are probably coming. God knows what they're ever up to.
Yeah.
Obviously, all the other stuff with the Transformers. There's some stuff going on still on Junkion.
Yes.
That involves the Cobra Law people.
Yeah, again, just a teeny tiny scene with just a tiny bit of dialogue going back and forth that makes you go, wait a minute, what?
Yeah,
this could be a major shift.
There's so many plates spinning, and you never, but at the same time, you never like feel confused or like unsure about like it's.
And they're always a quick read.
Yes.
I mean, you can knock out Avoid Rivals in 10 minutes easy. Again, it's not overdone. All right, well, speaking of not overdone, let's move on. Let's wrap this up. What else did you like this week?
Oh, God, there was a lot of other good stuff this week. We talked about the Absolute books were really good this week.
Yeah.
No surprise there.
What's better in kind of a Greek mythology themed character than sticking him in a maze? with a Minotaur. You know,
Yep.
like that was awesome. So cool.
Yeah, no, those were good. The new issue of Feral this week also almost made it up here. Pet Store, very like creepy, but like in a different creepy way than a lot of the other series has been, just because they're also just like, man, yeah, it really links to the fact like, yeah, if you just leave cats unsupervised around a bunch of food, they're just gonna get fat as can be. Like,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
for
like
sure.
there's
I've got one of those.
there's there was one other. Let me see if I can find a quick. Oh, there's news from the Fallout.
Oh,
new indie book
I
from
wanted to check that one out.
Chris Condon, who's been like writing Ultimate Wolverine and
Yeah.
Green Arrow.
Yep.
I'm liking the artist, but the art on it in particular, it's about like this kind of like there's some like I'm not sure what his deal is, but he's some kind of like journal, something like testing some it appears to be a nuke, but it's definitely something else happens to the people in the fallout of it, and now it's become this like small diner's problem, just like with a like lone surviving soldier who wasn't infected by whatever it is, just like, hey, there's a problem coming.
Oh
like,
my!
Yeah, no. So that looks like it's off to a very interesting start.
Yeah.
Anything else for you?
Well, I think it's become obvious to anybody who watches these videos that Ultimate Spider-Man could be up here every single week, because it almost always is. This was, again, oh my God. Love, family, betrayal. It had it all. Like, you know.
This is an intrigue. Like we meet someone and like the book, unless I miss something, never explicitly like says like who this person is. Like like during the meeting scene earlier.
Oh.
Like I think I have ideas.
Yeah, I mean,
but they don't say.
Dark hair with silver at the temples. Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah.
Made me really wonder. Like I had thoughts about who. We're gonna have to take that offline.
Yeah, there's a couple options, and each one is very much like that'd be an interesting choice.
Yeah, because did we know who?
We know who the others are.
We know who all the others
are.
Yep. But there was one who showed up at the end of the conversation with an interesting point of view.
Yeah.
And if they are who I suspect they might be, that could be really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so many great books. All right. Well, we got to get going, but we would be remiss in forgetting to tell you about the comic book convention that you and I are going to be splitting days out there. So I'll be out there with one of our Ryans on Saturday. We're planning on being
multiplying.
there. Yes, they are. We only hire Ryans now.
Yes.
But anyway, so we'll be out there. It opens at 11 on Saturday, I think. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to be there till 5 or 6 o'clock. And then you're going to be out there all day Sunday. Mm-hmm. The mall hours, I believe that's, 11 to 6?
Sounds right.
Yeah. So anyway, for our regulars, we've got one booth, and we're going to use it as kind of an opportunity for people who are more comic book curious to be able to get a sampling of things. So we're going to have our half-price graphic novels and some statues and posters and that kind of stuff, and we're going to be advertising. Our location is kind of the way that we're going about doing it. But I know that there were a number of local vendors who reached out to me to set up booths, and I'm not that part of the whole thing. So I pointed them in the right direction. So I'm hoping that we'll have a bunch of local people, and then I do know that we're going to have vendors from Iowa, Wisconsin, maybe Sioux Falls, that kind of thing, traveling to the area. It's going to be just out in the main hallways in the River Hills Mall. I can't tell you where our booth is going to be because it's not going to get assigned until Friday night.
But hey, that means you just got to wander through and check out all the booths. So we find us.
For sure. You'll see us. We're excited to be there. So we will be back next week with another video then. Mm-hmm. Until then, be sure to like, follow, subscribe, comment, and share. Come up to the River Hills Mall, stop down to our store, and pick up this week's new comic books if we are your local comic shop. If we're not your local comic shop, go to your local comic shop and support actual physical comic books that you can pick up and read and keep forever, and they can't recolor or digitize in terrible, terrible ways. Not that there's anything wrong with digital comics, but it shouldn't be the only way that you consume this stuff.
Also, sometimes, some of those recolorings they do kind of look like butt.
Not gonna lie, Ryan, that is going to be with me at the show, has been reading some, and an all-time great artist on an all-time iconic run, and they digitally recolored it, and it is poopy.
Yeah. No, Because it's funny, because sometimes it looks great, and other times they'll go back and just like redo the whole thing and just like, oh, no.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we'll see you back here next week, and until then, enjoy the reading.
If I learned anything, like, it's surprising how many people just don't get, like, how doing anything behind a camera involves so much more work than they understand. Like, whether it's something like this or, like, a movie or just, like, yeah, man, they don't just, like, point a camera at something and just, like, this is what we're doing now. I'm just like, nah, man. I mean, technically that's what we're doing, but even then, like,